Stalingrad, March 1944. Morning. The cold here has a different quality than winter cold. Winter cold is temporary. It carries within it the memory of warmth and the promise of spring. This cold is the cold of a city that has been broken open, its interiors exposed to the sky for so long that the distinction between inside and outside has become theoretical. The Volga moves under ice at the edge of the city. The rubble does not move at all. No buildings stand on the western bank of Mamayev Kurgan. Only the geometry of foundations, pressed into frozen earth like the outline of something that once existed. A woman arrives on foot from the east, crossing the ice bridge with a bundle on her back and a small child walking beside her. She does not stop when she reaches the western bank. She studies the street pattern, what remains of it, and turns left without hesitation. She has been here before. She knows what she is looking for, even if she is not certain it will still exist when she finds it. Her boots are military surplus, too large, wrapped at the ankle with cloth to prevent slipping. The child's boots fit better. She has made certain of this. The bundle on her back contains everything that will be needed in the first days: a blanket, a small amount of food, basic tools, a photograph folded inside a piece of oilcloth. She walks through what was Pushkinskaya Street, though the name exists now only in her memory and on no visible surface. The buildings on both sides have been reduced to varying heights, some to foundation level, some retaining a partial wall, some keeping a single floor intact above the ground. She reads these variations the way a sailor reads water, assessing depth, assessing what lies beneath, assessing what might be usable. The child walks without speaking. This is not unusual. The child has learned to read the pace of the walk and to match it, to ask questions when they stop and not when they are moving. The Battle of Stalingrad ended on February 2nd, 1943. The city that remained was not, in any conventional sense, a city. More than 40,000 residential buildings had been destroyed. The pre-war population of 400,000 had been reduced to a few thousand survivors, and those who had fled east across the Volga. By early 1944, the first organized return of civilians had begun, people coming back to a city that existed now primarily as a name attached to a field of ruins. She knows what the city is. She has known since the letters stopped arriving in the autumn of 1942. She came back anyway because the alternative, remaining in the east, in temporary accommodation, with no work and no place that belonged to her, was a form of disappearance she refused. The address she is looking for is on what was Komsomolskaya Street. She finds the correct block by counting from a surviving corner structure that she remembers from before. The building itself is partially standing. 2 walls and a section of the ground floor ceiling remain. The rest is open to the sky. She studies it from the street for a moment. Then she walks toward it. The first task is assessment. She moves through the surviving section room by room, testing floors with her foot before committing weight, checking walls for structural integrity by pressing her palm flat against them and feeling for movement. The child stays at the entrance as instructed and watches. 1 room is usable. The floor holds. The 2 walls provide shelter from the north and west winds. The ceiling above is intact. It is approximately 4 meters by 5 meters. She stands in the center of it and turns slowly, noting what is present and what is absent. Present: 4 walls on 2 sides, a floor, a ceiling, a doorway without a door, a window opening without glass. Absent: everything else. She sets the bundle down and begins. By midday, she has cleared the floor of debris, covered the window opening with the blanket secured at the top with wire found in the rubble outside, and built a small fire in the corner using broken timber from the adjacent collapsed section. The smoke rises through the open doorway. The room is not warm. It is less cold than outside, which is sufficient for now. The child eats a portion of the food she has brought. She eats less than the child and says nothing about it. In the afternoon, she begins the longer work, assessing what can be salvaged from the surrounding ruins to improve the shelter. Timber for the stove, material to cover the doorway, anything that might serve as insulation for the floor. She moves through the rubble with the systematic attention of someone conducting an inventory, which is exactly what she is doing. The rubble of Stalingrad in 1944 is not random. It has its own organization, the organization of collapsed structures, which follows the logic of how buildings fall. Once understood, this logic can be read. She reads it. Across the ruins of Stalingrad, hundreds of people are conducting the same assessment simultaneously. Each has arrived from somewhere east with a bundle and a destination, an address that may or may not still correspond to anything habitable. Each is making the same calculations. What remains, what can be made to function, what must be found or built or waited for. They communicate across the rubble the way people communicate in any landscape that is new to all of them, cautiously at first, then with increasing precision as trust is established through repeated useful exchange. A woman 2 blocks north has found a functioning stove abandoned in a collapsed building. She cannot move it alone. The woman from Komsomolskaya Street helps her move it in exchange for the use of it on alternating days. This is how the city begins to reorganize itself, not through official channels, those will come later, but through the immediate practical logic of people who need things and have found that other people need different things, and that exchange is more efficient than isolation. Evening arrives early in March. The light goes flat, then gray, then gone. She feeds the stove with the timber she has collected and sits on the blanket with the child close beside her. The fire makes the room almost warm. Almost. She takes out the photograph from inside the oilcloth. She does not look at it for long. She folds it back and returns it to the oilcloth and places it in the bundle. Outside, the ruins of Stalingrad are very quiet. No artillery, no aircraft. The sounds that remain are the sounds of wind moving through open structures, of timber settling in cold, of distant movement as other returners make their way through the dark to wherever they have decided to begin. She adds more timber to the stove. The child is already asleep against her side. In Stalingrad in 1944, returning was not the end of the story. It was the beginning of a different one, harder in some ways than leaving had been, because leaving had the momentum of emergency behind it, while returning required the slower and more difficult work of choosing to begin again in a place that gave back very little of what had been invested in it. She chose it anyway. This choice, made without ceremony and without anyone to witness it, is the only kind of heroism that rebuilding ever actually requires. The stove holds its warmth through the night. In the morning, she will assess what else can be salvaged.